Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Taking a look at the show times again for Alaska Weather. APB 5:30, KUAC on the 9.4 number there, 5:30 p.m. And that's been going on for just about a week now. 360 North never changed the show time at all, always at 7:30. And Alaska Public Media, 5 a.m. the following morning. And of course, the show gets uploaded to YouTube by 8 p.m. each evening. And on to the satellite imagery yesterday, not much going on out here over the Bering Sea, just a few clouds out there. And over the southeast coast, though, a system rolling through there with rain, showers, and that moisture extending all the way westward here to the Kenai Peninsula, and then kind of an area of clouds and scattered showers over much of the interior of Alaska. Some clearing with showers over Bristol Bay, and then out to the west, northwest, watching this system coming out of the Russian Far East. They're spilling clouds into the northwest Bering Sea as it heads eastward. And it also had a little weak trough right up here, bringing some light snow to the western Arctic coast. Well, today that trough is still up there. It's producing some light snow. And then we have that system here coming across the Bering Sea. The low center back in this area at picture time with rain just making its way onto the coastline there from Nunivak Island northward over to St. Lawrence Island. Actually some moisture spreading northward as well across the Seward Peninsula. Pretty good day here at Bristol Bay and down across Kodiak Island. And low pressure here just southeast of the Kenai Peninsula. That circulating some showery conditions. Still some scattered thunderstorms going on Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast today, but not quite to the extent they did the last couple of days. We got showers and clouds northward there, right across the Tanana Valley on up to the eastern Arctic coast. On the chart here, more rain moving into the southeast coast here with a warm front as it pushed in from the south. A lot of mid and high level clouds here pulling back up to the north there, but the main rain area down to the south where net picked up about 4/10 of an inch during the day today. And otherwise with this system here, the rain and showers, 1 to 2/10 of an inch fell in the Susitna Valley area, and even heavier showers along the North Gulf Coast, where there were some scattered thunderstorms today. Cordova picked up about 2/3 of an inch of rain. And then that band narrows out as you get north of the Alaska Range there, kind of just narrow area showers. Get into some light snow showers the eastern north slope on out to the Arctic coast. Same thing with this weak trough on the west side there with a break right through here. General area of weak high pressure between the two systems here. This one pushing in from the west and that bringing the rainfall here from the Seward Peninsula. That actually spreading in across Kotzebue Sound this afternoon and extending back down across the Pribilof Islands. Winds kicking up here on the south west coast, 15 to 25, some cases up to 30 miles an hour, but nothing too terribly strong. And for tonight, that low center will take off to the southeast now after coming westward. And so the front and rain will drop down in across western Bristol Bay, be right along the southwest coast there. And it looks like some moisture working into the eastern Aleutians. and then trailing back as some showers toward Adak and Atka. Otherwise, high pressure here over the interior, so some partly to or partial clearing here from the central interior, kind of right back down across Kodiak Island. Showers on the decrease now for the south central Alaska area, probably ending overnight tonight for Cook Inlet into the Susitna Valley, kind of lingering up there along the Alaska Range, locally in the eastern Tanana Valley, and more so down here with that low center now for mostly about Cordova, but west of Yakutat, and isolated showers for western Prince William Sound, all diminishing. And that system here moving northward keeps it wet across the southeast coast. Most of the rainfall will be down to the south, and may see a little bit of clearing over the from Sitka on up to the northern panhandle, and dry with some showers again over the Northwest Territories. For the forecast for tomorrow, looks like that system pulls eastward far enough to dry things out even over the southern panhandle. So look for a maybe partly sunny day, dry for the most part. Winds will continue to be light. Still have southwest flow, but this band of showers here staying off the coast through most of the day tomorrow, but that'll push right in tomorrow night, and then this system will be following it in behind for Tuesday and Tuesday night. Otherwise, this trough up here moving very slowly eastward, so that'll push a band of light snow to the eastern Arctic coast, trailing back to the southwest there into the northwest valleys. Maybe a little bit of mixed rain and snow through here, just isolated showers out toward eastern Norton Sound with high pressure over the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, on up ridging up into the Chukchi Sea there. Look for light winds and dry conditions all the way down the southwest coast. Rain changing to showers early tomorrow, really diminishing tomorrow afternoon and evening as the system pulls southward. Best chance of rain southern Kodiak Island, but looking partly to mostly sunny tomorrow afternoon across much of south central Alaska, Susitna Valley right up into the Tanana Valley. And back out to the west, light winds, variable clouds, dry conditions for the Aleutians and most of the Bering Sea. And the next system here coming out of the Russian Far East, you'll see pushes a definite increase in the wind and rain to St. Lawrence Island, through the Bering Strait there and even the Chukchi Sea. But looks like gale force winds will develop for the northern Bering Sea or northwest Bering Sea, St. Matthew Island marine zone. Small craft advisories elsewhere here, St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait. Pretty nice day over the interior, just some remnants of that trough here, upper level trough. Quite weak, maybe some isolated snow showers up there in the northeast, eastern Arctic coast, and even less moisture as that thing trails back to the southwest. So generally looking like a partly to mostly sunny day, but definitely dry across all of interior Alaska. Same thing for Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, even Bristol Bay. Dry conditions for the eastern Aleutians, maybe a peek at the sun, but showers becoming numerous there for the southeast coast on Tuesday, followed by the next push of moisture as that system rolls in sometime Tuesday night. Temperatures down along the panhandle today, upper 40s to mid 50s. 53 at Klawock and Annette, 52 Sitka. Skagway at 54, as did Yakutat and Middleton Island. Mostly in the 40s for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, right across Cook Inlet and the Susitna Valley, mid to upper 40s there. And then north of Copper River Basin there, north of the mountains, 30s, upper 30s to lower 40s. Fairbanks did reach 42 degrees and 41 at Fort Yukon. Otherwise, just 25 at Anaktuvik. And 39 at Bettles, 39 also over at Tanana. And up along the north slope in the Arctic coast, all the temperatures there in the mid to upper 30s, with 34 at Kaktovik and 36 Kivalina, 35 in Kotzebue. But Nome up to 44 degrees. Same thing at Unalakleet, 45 at Savunga. Lower 40s there for McGrath on down to Sleepmute, and a 47 at Bethel. Pribilof's upper 40s today, upper 40s, lower 50s, Alaska Peninsula, lower to mid 50s out in the Aleutians. And the low temperatures forecast tonight, teens and 20s here for the Brooks Range and eastern North Slope out to the coast. Milder conditions back to the west, 30s to near 40 here over the southwest coastal areas, 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, 20s and 30s here for, well, just actually away from the coastline, all the way up into the Tanana Valley, lower to mid 40s for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow, 50s, for the southeast coast. 40s to lower 50s here, Copper River Basin, south central Alaska, lower to mid 50s along the southwest coast, 40s through the Tanana Valley, 30s from the Koyukuk Valley out west of Kotzebue northward all the way out to the Arctic coast. And for flying weather, good VFR tomorrow, eastern Arctic coast southward. Marginal VFR though, Prince William Sound eastward in across the Panhandle, and extensive area of IFR here from Kuskokwim Bay, Nunivak Island, northward there across the western Arctic coast on up into the Arctic. Another breakout here and more IFR pushing eastward. For tomorrow afternoon, that kind of just vanishes in the forecast out there. So left with a widespread area marginal VFR for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians across the Alaska Peninsula, spreading into Kodiak Island again as that system pulls southeastward, and just some areas of IFR up here to the north. Central Brooks Range spreading eastward, good VFR from the southeast interior on down the coastline. And for passes, Hanatuvik, VFR becoming marginal as some moisture moves into that area. Same forecast for Adigan as well. And then for Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR tomorrow. Same forecast for rainy, be wide open for windy. And Isabel, also a VFR forecast. Mentasta, same thing. Tanita, VFR. And Portage, marginal VFR becoming VFR. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet, northern Seward Peninsula, southeastward here, just about right into the northern southeast coast. Quite a gradient here, 2 to 10,000 feet there across the southeast coast. And as a consequence, there's a pretty good southwesterly jet associated with that thermal gradient. More spread out here, 2 to 6,000 feet, eastern Bering Sea into the mainland, up to about 8,000 feet out west. Icing above about 5,000 feet here again from northwest. This area shifting southeast throughout the day for the Alaska Peninsula, just clipping Kodiak Island, and that narrow trough maybe above 3,000 feet, areas of mixed possible, nothing really serious at all. And again here just catching the southern southeast coast, an area of icing there above about 6,000 feet. This staying off the coast, and then they'll probably shift in with the trough tomorrow night. For the upper level wind flow chart, northerly winds 90 to 100 knots here coming down the backside of this upper level low as it gradually pulls eastward into northeast Bristol Bay. And then we got southwest winds up to 120 knots there, mostly coming in across the Queen Charlotte Island areas, and a general trough steer still off the coast of the Panhandle, as I mentioned, won't move in until tomorrow night. And for 9,000 feet, light winds just about everywhere here, Gulf of Alaska, Panhandle, these 30 knotters and 25 knotters, that's along or just south of the area there. High pressure, southern Alaska, 15 to 20 knot southwest winds on the north side of the high. Northwest, 25 to 30 there for the Alaska Peninsula and the eastern Aleutians, otherwise pretty light. And then for 3,000 feet, still northwest, turning west here, 25 to 30 knots. Light wind conditions across the interior all the way up to the Arctic coast. Winds on the increase from Shimia out west, and then basically southwest flow of 5 to 15 knots for the Panhandle. Taking a look at the turbulence graphic, maybe below about 4,000 feet here. Again, that area stronger winds just catching possibly the southern southeast coast, smooth through most of the remainder of the state. Could be some light to isolated moderate chop, mechanical stuff for small aircraft, eastern Aleutians, over to about Cold Bay, and then also coming into the far western Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider. As you well know, you can get forecast information for any day of the week. Today, tonight, tomorrow, out to 6 or 7 days. It includes the high and low temperature, the wind direction, the chance of rain or snow in your part of Alaska. But did you know that there is information available to forecast out to 2 weeks? So the question is, how would you use that information? And here to answer that question today and tell us a lot more about climate services from the U.S. National Weather Service Alaska region is Rick Toman. He's the program manager for the Climate Science and Services. And Rick, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
How would we use information that is out to 2 weeks instead of just the high and low and the chance of rain?
Well, Dave, as we move out in time, of course, forecasts become more uncertain. So as we move into that second week from now, we're not looking at specific highs or lows or precipitation amounts at any given place. What we can do with the state of the science at this point is get a handle on patterns. So we can say things like increased chances for stormy weather in the Bering Sea in 2 weeks, or we've been in a cold weather pattern, looks like 8 to 10 days from now, that pattern's going to change. Those are the kind of forecasts that we can currently make in that second week.
So you're increasing lead time for perhaps big or small weather events and telling us the likelihood of maybe more coastal storms or wind events in some areas?
Those are the kinds of things that that we hope to be able to let Alaskans know in the second week forecast. And if you have an activity or an event that you would find that kind of advance notice useful, whether it's moving stuff off of the beach, whether to go out hunting or to come back from camp, those kind of decisions, the week 2 provides the opportunity for you to get a handle on that kind of information.
Okay. What other type of weather impacts that we're familiar with might Alaskans use climate services for?
Well, in the forecast realm, we can go provide some information from this week 2, say the 8 to 14 day period, on out to the monthly and even seasonal time scale. Now, those monthly seasonal forecasts are still kind of just really very much pattern dependent, and the amount of detail that we can provide at this point is still pretty limited. Generally, indications of how temperature and precipitation will fall in maybe above normal, below normal kind of range. But in the week 2 period, we can be considerably more specific than that as far as the general patterns and really the impacts on Alaskans.
Okay, so we would be talking about generalizations there that would tell us that the period might be more stormy, might be more hot, more dry, more cold, and situations like that.
That's correct. So we're not going to be able to say in which community, for instance, there's the threat of coastal flooding, but we can often be able to tell we're moving into a pattern that would be conducive to big Bering Sea storms. So if you're in an area that could potentially impact you, you'll want to pay attention to the weather forecast.
Okay. Now, every day and every hour of the day, the National Weather Service is working on a forecast for the next day. But how do you start your forecast process for that extended period that goes out beyond 7 days?
Well, the way things work right now, we start off with the expected general flow pattern for Alaska and the whole world, really, and then we narrow that down to Alaska. So we start off with the basic computer model forecast. There's quite a few different computer models that we look at, bring those together. And then another important part of that is we attempt to assess the confidence. The reality is often 2 weeks away, the computer models are very divergent. They have lots of different solutions, and that's an indication that we don't have much confidence. But when we see more agreement in that time frame, and when that agreement is a pattern that will be potentially very impactful for Alaska or is a big change from what we've been in, that's when we can then take that expected pattern. We have computer models forecasting it. We've assessed the confidence. Now we can move that forward. How, using our experience as Alaskan weather forecasters, how does that typically play out for Alaska? So is this a stormy pattern for the Bering Sea? Is this an extra rainy period for Southeast? Is this the kind of pattern that generates strong winds potentially in the Anchorage Bowl? Is this a deep cold pattern for the interior? All of those are the kind of things that we're looking at in these large-scale patterns. That's very different than telling you that the winds on 10 days from now are going to be gusting to 120 on the hillside. We're looking for patterns, not the very specific information that the Weather Service will then hone in on as the event gets closer.
So the idea is to keep the 5, 6, 7 day forecast the same, where you are getting the standard high and low temperature and the chance of wind or rain, but further out you get a broad general forecast, but as the time gets closer to that event, we'll get a lot more specific.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. So how can people use this information if I am out in the bush and I want to see, is a coastal storm expected in my region, or is a chance for that improving over the next 2 to 3 weeks, where could I go to get information like that?
When we see that potentially impactful or a big change in the weather is coming 8 to 14 days out, typically we will start to highlight that on the Weather Service Facebook site. We might produce a YouTube video highlighting that, linking that on our Facebook site. So often we don't, at this point, we don't have much to say in that because we're really looking for those forecasts of opportunities. But one thing we can say very likely as we go through the next 2 or 3 years, there'll be more and more of this kind of forecast information available in that week 2 time frame.
Okay, and something that emergency managers and city planners and folks in villages might be interested in keeping an eye out for, looking for that information to be headlined, whether that's on social media or perhaps through the National Weather Service channels there to get information from you to make better plans a little bit longer term and make better preparations in the event that things become a little bit more unsettled.
Absolutely. Climate Services with the National Weather Service Alaska region is talking to the state of Alaska every week, apprising them of that 2-week outlook. And on the social media side, we are working to keep Alaskans informed so that when we think we have some confidence in a high impact or a big change, that's the best way right now for folks to find out about that. Twitter, Facebook, so stay tuned to your National Weather Service.
Very good, a developing program. Rick Thoman with the National Weather Service Alaska region. He's a Climate Science and Services Program Manager. Thanks so much for joining us again, Rick, and I hope to have you back again soon.
Great, thanks, Dave.
For another edition of Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back. Out along the coast, pretty light winds here on the north side, west-northwest 10 to 15 knots. Westerlies 15 to 20 knots for the south coast, and that kind of just blowing right in there across Clarence Strait in those southern areas. Northwest 15 or so there for Stevens Passage with 4-foot seas. And Lynn Canal north at 15, but those are forecast to become south at 15 knots tomorrow afternoon. And then for Tuesday, south winds 10 knots, northern Lynn Canal and Stevens Passage. Southeast, so coming up to 20 for Clarence Strait. Otherwise, pretty light winds out along the coast, south to southeast at about 15 knots, with seas running 6 to 8 feet. And Prince William Sound, light variable winds forecast tomorrow, as well as the North Gulf Coast here with 5-foot seas. West to southwest, east side of Kodiak Island and the Barrens. Otherwise, light variable winds, Shelikof Strait, Kamishak Bay, and Cook Inlet. And then for Tuesday, northwest at about 10. Really not much of an increase at all, but here, east side of Kodiak Island, up across the Barrens, northerlies roughly 15 knots, becoming northeast and then east there for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Winds stay light for Prince William Sound, as well as northern Cook Inlet, pick up to about 15 knots for southern Cook Inlet. And for Bristol Bay tomorrow, east winds at 20 knots, small craft advisories here coming across the Alaska Peninsula from the northwest with 10-foot seas, and then swinging around to the southeast at 20 knots from Sitkinak to Castle Cape. And then those go back to northwest on Tuesday at about 20 knots, and from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, they drop off to about 15 from the northwest, seas running 7 feet. On the Bering Sea side, southwest at 15 with 6-foot seas for Tuesday, turning westerly here for Bristol Bay. And the eastern Aleutians, Fox Islands, small craft advisories, northwest 25 to 30 knots, 9 to 11-foot seas. And then dropping off, laying down pretty good here, westerlies at 15 for AKwx, and then out west, picking back up to 30 knots from the southwest. And those become 20 knots, or become westerly and drop off to 20 knots there for Tuesday. And then we've got small craft advisories back in the picture here for AKwx eastward, and then getting lighter again for mainly Unalaska Island, 15 to 20 knots out of the southwest, with those seas running about 7 to 8 feet. And then for southwest coast here, north to northeast at 15 knots with 6-foot seas tomorrow. Northwest 25, that's good for small craft advisories there for St. Paul and St. George. Northern Bering Sea there, St. Matthew Island, northwest 15, northeast at 20 for St. Lawrence Island. And then for Tuesday, that big storm coming in from the west there, pretty strong front, so gale force southerlies there for St. Matthew Island and the Northern Bering Sea here. 35 knots coming up to 30 knots for St. Lawrence Island, and 25 knots on down to Nunivak Island. Then you got southwest at 20 blowing into Kuskokwim Bay with 6-foot seas. Small craft advisories for the Pribilofs. And up along the Arctic coast, south to southwest at about 15 there on the east side, central coast west at 15, and the western coast northwest at 15, Wales to Cape Thompson, north winds at 20 knots, 5-foot seas. And looking ahead to Monday, you'll see these winds come up here out west with actually from Wales to Cape Beaufort. We've got small craft advisories for 25 to 30 knot winds. Drop off considerably here for the western coast and stay pretty light for the central and east side, becoming a little more westerly, and then south winds at 20 knots for that eastern zone. For tonight again, rain shifting southeastward with this low center here, spreading across the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Showers on the decrease here, Prince William Sound, south central Alaska, wet over the southern panhandle. And a pretty good day down that way tomorrow. These showers approaching the coast may not get into the area till early tomorrow evening. Some rain catching Kodiak Island. A little bit of moisture up here, nothing too significant, but look for more sunshine here in south central Alaska on up across the eastern interior. And then for Tuesday, here's that next storm coming eastward there, very tight gradient. So again, the gale warnings south of St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, a pretty nice day over the interior as well as the panhandle, but they'll have a few more showers. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.
I'm Ellen Lockyer. I primarily cover issues in the Matanuska-Susitna Borough. I try to reach an audience that can make decisions based on my reports.